Good morning, class. First off, I want to thank those of you who took the time to watch the introductory videos that were prepared for day one, or shall I say week one, of both macro and microeconomics courses. I thank you. Your attention to that type of detail in this type of a course that involves repetitive reading, a course that involves significant time thinking about the concepts that you've read and introduced your mind to for the first time in a lot of cases. The repetitiveness, the attention to detail, and moreover the thought pattern that is required to apply economic theories, models, is essential. So your patience, especially in the modality of a remote class, maybe not so much those of you that are taking the online economics course, the patience that must be there for a student to slowly click on the Canvas class, wait for the system to load, to procedurally click on the announcements to find out what the professor has said for the week, then clicking on the modules and previewing the modules and the items in the modules for each week one by one. That attention to detail is a recipe for success. On the other hand, if students aren't patient, if students are instant gratification type visionaries, where they say, I don't have to really read, I don't have to read the PowerPoints, I can take the quizzes and the exams with an open book and find the answers during the time of my assessment. I don't have to do that extra work. That won't work. Successfully, you won't be successful in the class. So if I look at the two paradigms, on the one hand, patience, repetitiveness, review, thought, application. It's the one that's on the one hand. That's on the left side of my left hand. And the right hand, I can do it without studying. I can find the answers right at the time that it's necessary to do well on the quizzes. I don't have to think about the course because I am who I am. Now, I say these two things with total respect to all my students. Moreover, humbly, I say, being a student myself, that in some instances I took the right hand and said, oh yeah, I can do this without maybe necessarily being patient. I never was one to say that I don't have to study. Being an athlete, having a basketball scholarship awarded to me to go to Cal Poly Pomona, full ride, it was important that I studied, right? It was important that I applied myself to some degree, and then every day when I went to basketball practice, it was important that I fully commit myself to conditioning, fully commit myself to strategy, fully commit myself to team. And it wasn't until I took an econ course, which is the thing that's ironic, and I'll get into this in our core about today. It wasn't until I took economics and didn't do so well that I really had to look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, Henry, are you doing your best work? Are you being patient? Are you repetitively reading? Or are you thinking about your life as your student position to learn a subject of this magnitude? I finally got it. And thus, I am your professor of economics today. So I'm hoping that you'll take what we talked about, or was I talked about in the left hand, which will be to really be patient with this and understand that anything worth anything is hard work. You get out what you put into any process. And economics, math, English, history, computer information systems, you name it. Any course that you might take here on campus requires that you have pay attention, and that your mind, your spirit as a person, and not to be too philosophical, and that you're present in the moment. Also keep in mind that there will be some things that you will fail at in this class, and I use failure to say that you may not meet your goal. A lot of my students in the beginning of an economics course say, I must get an A, I must get a B to graduate high school. I must get an A, I must get a B so that I can transfer. Well, I hear you there, but you must earn an A, you must earn a B. And in that process, you're going to have some hiccups. Some things, some weeks, some concepts are not going to stick with you the first time. And so again, it will require that you go back and repetitively think about these concepts, these models, these theories that you will learn. So in this first week, the primary goal was for us to analyze some of the fundamental foundations of economics. In chapter 1, it talked a lot about the 3 key economic ideas. And these ideas were fortified on the behalf of Hubbard and O'Brien, who were authors of this book, where if you look at other economics textbooks, their key economic ideas might be different. Yet, in both cases, the economic ideas are centered around what's best for the society. How are decisions made? And when those decisions are made in some way, based upon some strategic maybe outlook. Of course, your strategic outlook in this class is to do as best as you can. You might also have a strategy to spend at the least amount of time and maximize the grade potential, right? But and that's fair, right? If you read and you're attentive and you do that based upon maybe the study agenda that I've developed in Canvas, then you're going to spend less time weekly studying. But if you don't do that regularly, it's almost like breathing. Then the outcome is not going to be what you expect. So these economic ideas, as I mentioned, I'll talk more about them in a couple of moments, are fundamentally important for students to think about in the beginning. Of course, the economic problem that every society must solve. Again, how do we allocate, I say we, an economy, allocate enough items that people in our society want to purchase, and at the same time, produce, allocate things in our society to meet the insatiable, unlimited wants of individuals in our society, which, as you think about the words that I'm saying, you go, Professor Young, there's no way we can satisfy what everybody wants. That's why we have an economic problem. However, we can take a step back and we can say, okay, so what are some of the fundamental things, the basic tenet things that people need? We know that we need shelter, we need food, we need security, we need family, we need clean air, we need transportation, we need clean water. In today's society, we need laws that mandates that regardless of your skin color, that you're treated fairly, that you're treated equally. In that regard, again, the list goes on in terms of the things that our society might need. However, in this class, we're going to identify some fundamental, what we might call them, factors of production, or key inputs. Remember, as you produce as a student, the factor that goes into your production is going to be your grade, is how much you study, how much you read. Remember, reading is looking at the words. Studying is analyzing those words. Applying is effectively taking those words that you've analyzed and putting them to use to solve a problem, to answer a question. The other element of this chapter, it talks about economic models and the foundational importance of models. You might consider a model to be something, a structure or a picture, or moreover a graph that gives someone that's thinking about a problem, that gives them a roadmap. I consider maps as models, but they're not necessarily models, because a map gets you from point A to point B, right? So if you're going from Vegas, from Victorville to Vegas, that's a map. The model is the freeway, right? However, in using the map, the 15 freeway to get to Las Vegas, and the model, more importantly, maybe being the infrastructure that's there for us to drive on, the begging question would be, is how predictable can we make an informed decision as to how long it might take us to get to Las Vegas? That is how a model is validated, on whether or not you can use a model several times. If you can replicate certain variables, we might say speed if you're driving your car. If you can replicate a particular speed, and which is a factor, and get to Vegas in a certain time frame, the same exact time every time, then that's a good model. However, if you're like me, and I don't go to Vegas much, but I've been to Vegas before, and you never know what you're going to get when you go to Vegas. So thus the map, taking the freeway, 15 freeway from Victorville to Vegas, and the model, the freeway, is not necessarily an economic model, but it's a structural way of thinking about how we get from point A to point B. However, the economic models are a little bit more simpler than that. And again, you'll hear the term as you go through your reading this week, called ceteris paribus, all things being equal. If all things are equal, meaning there's never any traffic, meaning there's never any rain, meaning there's never any drunk drivers, meaning that there aren't people that are speeding 100 miles an hour, which you've seen going to Vegas, or at least 92. And other people going 65, right? If you can eliminate those variations, then you have a clear model that you can use. But my point is this, is that ceteris paribus, all things being equal, we will introduce certain models in this course that will make plausible sense. That will be something that you can look at and go, okay, all things being equal, I get it. You know, economics is the study of the allocation of goods and services. And through that allocation of goods and services, decisions have to be made about structurally how our society, or moreover how our economy works, not society. So society is one thing, the economy is another. And it is fitting those two together, society with economics, or the economy with culture, with spirituality or the lack thereof. Or, some people believe in a higher power, as I do. Other people do not. That's freedom of belief. And then in our environment today, we can also say that our laws, again, our executive branch, our judicial branch, our legislative branch, with under politics, also has a major influence on the effectiveness of economic models. There are two domains of economics that you students are learning in the beginning stage of economics, and that is macro and micro. This introductory lecture is for both classes, because in the beginning, micro and macroeconomics are synonymous. They're one and the same, right? Because in both cases, we're learning the foundational principles of economics. Now, after chapter 4, And in both classes, chapters 1 through 4 are the exact same. So if you're in 2 of my courses, that doesn't mean that you study any less because you are going to go over the same information. In my mind, you study double time to increase your potential to succeed by getting an A on the first exam, earning that A that a lot of you want, earning that B, earning that C, and in some cases earning a D, which is okay. And I might even have a couple of fails, right? But you'll learn from that process. So macroeconomics looks at particular elements of our society compared to micro. Yet, economic skills and economics as a career. I mean, I'm one to a testimony to say that knowing the ins and outs of economics has helped me as a professor to make a really good living, to have a quality of life that I would not give up. I mean, of course, I'm not living in a mansion. I don't drive a Ferrari, but my bills are paid. My family, we eat regularly and we have a roof over our head, and we enjoy some of the amenities that this life provides. Right? So economic skills, though, you're going to have better skills to understand the society. More importantly, how to use certain thought processes, connecting theory with models that will help you as a voter. Again, we have a major election that's coming up here in a couple of months. It's crucial of election time. And then, of course, some of you are parents out there. Some of my students are parents. And those of you are students that are looking to go to the university, finish your academic goals here at Victor Valley College, and then pursue higher heights, as it were, a higher degree, a higher purpose. On the other hand, some of you are going to say, hey, this is pretty interesting. Can I make a living actually talking and calculating and interpreting and developing theories and or models that can help businesses to succeed? Certainly. That can help individuals to reach their goals as maybe a financial planner, or shall I say, even if you were to go into work into insurance. Of course, economics, just understanding economics gives you such a broader base of understanding that, in my mind, it's linked to all careers. Okay, so maybe if you're Beyonce, you don't have to know economics. Yes, you do. Beyonce just made a movie. I don't know if you've heard of the artist Beyonce and Jay-Z. They're married. She just did a Disney special, right, on the Disney channel, Disney Plus channel. It was amazing. And she reached millions of people at a time where our society is in turmoil because of ethnic and racial disparities. Not only did she reach people and she had a social overarching goal, she also made a pretty penny. Anytime you do a movie for Disney, or Disney might buy the rights, they have what we call deep pockets. So even musicians, actors, actresses, now, do they concentrate on economics the way you're going to concentrate? No. May they pay someone to give them advice on what types of things, decisions they might make to increase their profits? Sure. But economics is all around us. Again, fundamentally, economics is a way of thinking. So those are the main ideas that you're going to discuss, or shall I say, look over in this chapter. And the last piece is going to be, using graphs and formulas. I mean, economics is, I guess you can say, full of graphs. Because the thing is like everything that we've talked about, or I've talked about in these past 20 minutes, probably 6 out of 10 of the items I could actually draw a picture or a graph to give someone, to explain some of the things that I've said. like the key economic ideas, I could draw a graph, right? Or I could draw a picture that would show each of those ideas on the paper and give individuals the ability to look at the different domains of economic ideas. Models, oh, of course, we could visualize how the freeway looks going from Victorville to Vegas. But more importantly, one of the first models that we'll identify in this course is called a circular flow model. So there'll be some extra credit points that you can earn on Sunday because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about the circular flow model. Keep in mind, if you can't find it in chapter 1, where would you go to find the circular flow model? In the index of your book. One thing I want to say too is that as you're going through these courses or this course, week 1 is not going to just cover chapter 1. Week 1 will cover chapter 1, 2, and a little bit of 3. In terms of concepts, right? So you don't want to read just chapter 1 this week and then wait and read chapter 2 next week and then wait and read chapter 3 in week 3. No. You want to, as I mentioned, this is a breathing apparatus. You know, we talk about COVID and with all due respect, some people that have had COVID have had to have the breathing machines to help them to breathe. If you embody these classes that you're taking at Victor Valley College as a breath, not an afterthought, not something that you're just kind of doing, but as breathing, my goodness, your success is limitless. So we'll look at graphs and formulas throughout. So keep in mind, I hope that this brief discussion that I've had will incentivize you to read chapter 1 and chapter 2 this week. And again, the key emphasis is on using graphs and formulas. So any place in the textbook that you find graphs and or formulas, you want to pay special attention to. And I'll come back and we'll talk about this some more. Okay, have a great day. What I would do when I leave this video, and I would make sure to watch the professor's comments every single week. Then I'm going to go and look at my study agenda, and I'm going to get back to work. All right, be safe, be productive, and have a great day.